Hello and welcome back to the Access Sport podcast. Today I'm joined with someone who I've known for quite a while now through Access and through the Steven Gerrard Academy. It's Grace Merritt.
Thank you for having me here. It's lovely to be here.
Today, Grace, I mean, we're kind of wanting to celebrate female icons in sports, and you're someone who I know who's been in the sports industry, especially the media part of the industry, for quite a while now, coming up to just over a year.
Yeah.
And today I wanted to chat to you about your journey, and we'll get to that. But first off, I think it's important for us to outline evolution and personal growth. I mean, we were speaking before the podcast actually a little bit about, you seeing yourself in 5 years and what you saw yourself doing 5 years prior to where you are now. What is that, and how do you think that is going to change as you grow older and get into this industry?
I feel from a young age, I have worked since I was 13, so I have quite a lot of career ambitions and I'm quite a creative person. So I'd say 5 years to now, you don't know where you are. I always take every day as it comes and every opportunity. I remember Steve Hoversall saying to us, every opportunity that comes to you, whatever it is, just take it on and progress in that. So as I said to you, when I was 13, I wanted to do real estate and construction, completely different. But my dad inspired me to do writing. He wrote Through the Wind and the Rain, which was Liverpool's biggest fanzine back in the 90s. So I always wanted to get into sport. I took media in school and I got an A star in that, and I'd write sport articles and women in football. And back when I was in school, there wasn't actually a lot of women in football compared to what, it's amazing to see in sports, the growth for women. When you go on the television, you see a woman there. But for my personal growth, I always wanted to sort of go into journalism and go in that sort of press conference room, write articles and be part of the press. And I've experienced that and I really enjoyed it, meeting professionals and being part of that sort of industry. But it wasn't for me. I'm very bubbly and I don't want to interrogate people. And where I look in 5 years now, I own my own business that, I fully took it on about 4 months ago. And things are just popping up, from making websites to videos to being on camera, just everything, like being able to put my hands on everything. But I've got really big plans for 2025 where a couple of businesses opening and just making something my own.
Taking it back to kind of early times before you started the business and having new opportunities, especially with interviewing. I know this is an interview now, but we've done quite a lot of interviews with football players in the past. Talk to me a little bit about having to push yourself in those scenarios, because they're really nerve-wracking, especially when you're coming into a room and everyone's expecting you to deliver and expecting you to do a good interview. And I know the pressure's on them to have good answers, but there's also a lot of pressure on the interviewer. So talk me through that and kind of the night before, were you getting some nerves, and then how you actually performed when you actually got there?
So before the Steven Gerrard Academy and Access Sport, I did my own podcast, full of nerves, very young, was only 17, 18, and I had a lot to improve on. But the joy of me, and I'm really good at getting to know people and having that sort of love and vibe towards people where people can open up in front of me. So I suffer bad in anxious situations. I will overthink. I want everything to be perfect, and it's sometimes a learning curve. So when you do look at back in the day when you did interviewing to when you look now, it's crazy the difference. But I always said, keep doing it, talking in front of a camera. I think in the Steven Gerrard Academy, we got asked to do, after the match, interview players, and they didn't have any media trained experience. And I've got a voice note on my phone, and I said, what prepared you to take that penalty? What were you thinking? And it was that answer.
I know what you're about to say.
Yeah. The answer was, well, the keeper was tiny, so I knew I could score it. And in that moment, you're like, oh no, and then you sort it out yourself. Why did I ask that question if you could get a sarcasm answer or people aren't media trained on it? So what I'd say, what I've learned is that making people feel comfortable, but also as well, give people what they want, ask questions, dive into someone's start of the career to how they finished, or even if it is on a certain topic, dive into it. And that's what I've learned. And it has at times where you do have self-doubt. Like before Miami, a lot of personal things were going on in my life, and Miami, I was full of nerves. I wanted everything to go perfect. I'm traveling all across the world. I didn't want to make a bad impression. And over there, I found myself again. I think that's when I really found myself, and I believed that I was meant for this industry, because I never believed, even in the academy when we got opportunities, I was like, I'm the only one that's a girl here, with all the lads that I love to bits, because you were so welcoming. But it's a bit more harder to prove that you know the game. I've had comments, oh, you really know football, you really know your sport, you know what you talk about. And people say, oh, take it as a compliment. But for me, it's sort of that dividing in sort of, oh, I'm a girl. So does that mean that I don't know football because of of the gender I am? So we're still trying to break down them barriers, but I think we're being on camera and interviewing, the more that you do it, and just fans in your little personality. I used to put things on and sort of not be myself, and everyone said just be yourself, because that's where you are today.
And that's all you can be, isn't it?
Yeah,
there's no
definitely.
point in trying to be a fake in anything that you do. And I think that's the one thing that, when I'm looking at doing new things and I've seen that you've done it, I think it's very inspiring, the fact that you are so bubbly and you're such yourself in things that you do. We were talking about websites that you're doing. We'll get to that a bit later on, but you've mentioned that you can tell that there's a website done by you. And I think that's something that's specific, because it's got your little style on it. Your nature kind of comes out in your work. And we'll talk about more of your work in a bit. But you mentioned about putting yourself outside your comfort zone. It's so important, isn't it? But it is probably one of the most difficult things I find to do day in, day out. Because in this industry, you're going to have to meet new people every single day. And people look to you as like, you're the expert. And in that imposter syndrome, and you mentioned, people passing little sly digs about you football, don't you? And I think it's so hard to deal with, isn't it? And to then actually go back into that situation and still perform. How do you find that, and kind of how have you, I think, grown so that doesn't even affect you anymore?
I think the work that you do produce and the amount of people that you work with. I've worked with over now 30 companies. So as I say, I must be doing something right, but it is imposter syndrome, like working with current players, ex-players, people that you've dreamed about, people that you get nervous about, and then you realise, oh, they're just like a normal person like you. So I think what I'd say is the hardest part about it is just trying to leave the negative comments. Twitter's a big one. I don't like Twitter, and it's probably the best thing for my portfolio and making myself a character out there. And a lot of work has come to me where I put a tweet on and then someone has been in touch, if it's something to do with the sports industry. But then you get negative comments with that. And I am a lovely person, so that really does break down your barriers. But when I do speak to people and they've had a lot worse than me, they say, you can only believe in yourself. And someone that's just a fake account on a social media, they're not going to get far in life, because they've had to go out their way to make a fake account and comment that about someone. So I think for me, it's just staying myself. A lot of people say like, oh, you're the light in the room. And I say this to every work experience or women who want to get in the industry. I take everywhere as a job interview. Dressing presentable, being nice, being productive, talk about what they do. You could get work out of them. Oh, you said you want to go into this, but do you have that as a backup plan? That's what I'm really good at. I like that. Like, I didn't have business cards for so long, and people were like, what are you doing, Grace? Like, you network and meet so many people. Why don't you do that? So from then, people come to me now, which is the most amazing thing, because when you're trying to get yourself out there and only having like one project a month, it's so hard, because you go, where can I find the people? And then it's word of mouth, you networking with people, and also people seeing the work that you do.
I think positive energy as well.
Yeah.
I think having that thought process of, you know, I want work, but I'm willing. I spoke to a guy a while ago, and he doesn't actually outreach to anyone. He lets them all come to him.
Wow.
Now, I agree with that. I think there's also something to be said for, you know, outreaching and putting yourself outside your comfort zone, and, you know, maybe messaging the Sky or the BBC, you know, someone who you think, oh God, they're a bit too big for maybe me at the moment. But it's a massive confidence boost to be able to get a reply off these people, isn't it? And actually go forwards. And you've worked with a lot of people that we'll talk about a little bit later on. The thing I do want to get to know, I want everyone to get to know Grace a little bit more. So talk to me a little bit about your childhood and kind of where the love of sport began for you.
Very young age. My dad was football mad, and I've got a younger brother, Will. And my mum worked long hours in the NHS. So my relationship was always on the weekends. My mum worked the weekends, so I was always going to match, playing football, being in the men's teams. Very tomboyish growing up, I'll say. And my dad, the first ever chance of Liverpool was the Anfield rap. And not many people actually knew about this. It's like, it's a rap back in the day, what John Barnes and Aldo did. And it really did. At a young age, I really loved it. And I went to Istanbul as well. So from then, the power of football has always been in my family. And I've been home and away everywhere at Liverpool. And to actually do work for certain points in the club and work in the media side of things, being involved in the club is always something that I wanted to do. But my childhood growing up was always playing with the lads, playing football. I wasn't girly at all. And I think in school, my comfort was always the boys. And it wasn't to be like, oh, why is she always hanging around with the boys? You got judged as a girl. Like I always did. When I went to, I remember it was Norwich at home, and I had a few girls saying to me like, oh, why are you into football? It's such a boy sport, like really getting stick. And then you go, oh my God, like I've got to come into school every day and I'm getting all these horrible comments. So to actually stay sort of sane in your childhood, because you're getting so many negative comments about women not being in football, because back in my day and when we were growing up, it wasn't really any. Like we had dance at PE, and then the boys would play football, and I go, why? Why is why aren't we together? Like that's what it should be like. That's what the world should be like. It's such a man's world, and I've realised that with a lot of rejection growing up, like in certain similar roles. But I'd say like when I did leave school, I was like, I don't care what anyone thinks. Like I just want to enjoy life and do something that I want to do. And a new sport is always something that I wanted to get into.
People say as well, you know, getting that bill for regret later in life that you wouldn't have followed your passion is a real hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And it's quite admirable, the fact that you haven't just gone along with what everyone said. You know, it's for lads. Well, you've gone, well, no, actually, it's for me. I enjoy it. And who's to tell you that any different, you know? And you mentioned inspiration with your dad, that he was obviously a writer and things like that. Talk a little bit about inspiration. You said there was barely any females in sports at the time, but having to actually find a role model, whether it was in sport or they were a presenter on the TV or wherever, what would you say is your female role model within this kind of industry?
I think in this industry, the women that I have looked up to is Melissa Reddy and Kate Scott now. What unbelievable women. It's great, you know, they're on a panel full of men and they can sort of shine and be their own personality, and people will remember their name. And they're so good at what they do, and it just stands for women that we can also know the game, you know. We don't have to look glamorous on a camera. We don't do it for being with men and like sort of being in that industry. Like it's nothing to do with that. It's when you have grown up with something like football is the beautiful game. I remember one of my biggest idols is Gerrard, and to be able to study at his academy, like I can't wait to in the future thank him for it. Like I really want that sit down conversation with him, because growing up, he was a fighter as a footballer, and I've been a fighter. I'm like, I say I'm one of God's strongest soldiers because I don't get anything easy, but I've had breakdowns, sort of, am I meant for this industry? Do people want to just hire me because I'm good to talk to, or do they actually like me knowledge? And the more opportunities I've been getting, and the more people that I look up to, Harriet Pryor's been doing amazing. You know, you've got Abby, one of my good mates, who she was an artist and now she can own her own business. So these are so good for women to just get out there and get out the comfort zone, because you get so much backlash. Why is she on the telly? Because she didn't play football, or she's some, like, all comments like that, just going out and winging it. And you see like the television now, it's full of women now, and that just makes me smile. So many opportunities now.
I think where you can stand out as well, I think especially for you as well, because I know you well and I know this is something that you do, is preparation.
Yeah.
Preparation is key. That's where you can stand out, and that's where people can go, right, well, she means business because she's coming in, she's prepared, and she knows what she's doing. And people can't deny that, no matter who you are, what background you come from. If you're prepared and you're knowledgeable, people shouldn't deny it, because it's actually going to help them in the long run, really. And you just mentioned about that sit-down talk with Gerrard, and we were both on the course through Access. What was that process like of finding out about it and thinking to yourself, right, this is for me? Because I know for me, I actually saw it on his story.
Wow.
So,
and you could have missed that.
Yeah, exactly. I'd only just re-downloaded Instagram, because
you didn't have it for long, did you?
No, but I saw it on his story. I thought, what's this? Clicked on it, was confused in my direction, like yourself at the time, and clicked on it and thought, you know what? I'll just apply for it. So I'm keen to know what your kind of story behind that was.
So my story is crazy. Me and you were the oldest on the course. We were sort of going, we need our life sorted. What are we doing? Let's wing this and make something out of it. So I was on a documentary on BBC about the Champions League final, what went wrong. It all was crazy. Like, I went through a traumatic time in Paris, and I have suffered from trauma from the match with that. But from then, I got to meet Layla Wright, who's sisters with Jordan, who's works in the Gerrard Academy. And she mentioned it to me. She was like, you know, you talk well, you should do it. I said, oh, I don't know. Like, and at the time when I did go to like the opening evenings, it was just full of men and boys, and you worry and you go, oh God, like, I'm the only female here. But then my mum and dad and people around me said, that's empowering. Like, go and do it. Like, go and smash it. You're the only woman. Like, go and make something of it and make a career out of it. So I saw the Gerrard Academy. It was through Layla, went on the post. There was a couple of spots left. I was like, let's do this. Like, let's go and smash it and see what happens. At the end of the day, we're at that age, and we're similar ages. We could have gone to university. And I always said, from the age of 13, university is going to slow you down. Always had it. Like, you're with older people. One of my best friends, Debbie, my first work friend, when I worked in a housing company, she's like older, and she's me forever. She's me supporter. She watches everything I do. It's on the radio at 10 to 8 in the morning. She's there. She looks after me like that. So from then, I was like, let's wing it. And I think at the time, it was that point in my career. I either do this, it's a year's not that far, it's less than a year, you'd say, isn't it? I'd say, I've got that in my belt. I don't want to go to university, but where do I go from here? And I always wanted to go Dubai to do real estate, but my heart wasn't in it because like that lifestyle and materialistic things, that's not my way of life. It's just out there, you do get the sort of what you work for out there, you do get the reward back, but it wasn't my outlook on life. And to not watch the Reds every week, what am I going to do? Like, I couldn't do that. So the Steven Gerrard Academy, and Steven Gerrard's been my idol for forever. Like, growing up, my favourite ever player. I was like, and I want to be part of him. I want to represent him.
Couldn't turn it down, could you?
No, not at all.
Taking that leap, though, is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Scary.
think we spoke a while ago about uni, and it was never really something that I looked at. I was going to go. I think I was going to get an apprenticeship, actually. And then you kind of think to yourself, why am I doing this? I don't even like it.
Yeah.
What's the point? In my head, I was thinking, what's the point in doing something either for the money or just because society or people are saying that's the next step, apprenticeship or uni? And it was nice that you had that clarity. And as you say, it's a year. You know, sometimes I think you can feel it's a step back, but in reality, it's 3 steps forward because it's actually getting you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we spoke about. One of the tutors on the course, Tom, we spoke about that with him, where he said, you know, it's admirable the fact that you've actually chosen something you want to do, because you could have gone to uni and studied business or whatever. And at the end of it, you've thought to yourself, hang on a minute, why did I do that? Because I don't even know where I'm going, because it's not guaranteed. Neither was this guaranteed we were going to get something, but
Yeah.
I think it was an environment that we were allowed to thrive and learn and grow, and we have, and that's the reason you're where you are today. So you begin at Steven Gerrard Academy. What's your first impressions before you get on the course to actually when it actually starts? What are the key differences there, would you say?
The first little tasters in the Anfield wrap coming to the football day at Head and Eccles it was, and getting to meet all of yous, and I was like, this is my type of people, a great creative bunch. You know, we all getting our heads down, and I was never around that in school. It was always, school, like you didn't really care about it, and I'd say I'm very nerdy. Like I always loved reading, and like you in school, you did get like, what's she wasting her life for? But you know, you thank yourself for being like that. I think the first impressions I did get, I remember, I got a text to say, I'm in the next week, because it was on like the second year.
That, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't turn up for like me first and second lesson. So when I did turn up, it's like, like, who is she? And then Tom as well, but I was like, I haven't like missed my lessons. Like I just didn't know what was going on. I think at the time, it was hard in a sense that we wasn't in, what was the place we were going to? By the Tesco, what's it called?
Oh God, I forgot.
Wyncote.
Wyncote. Yeah.
So we were waiting for Wyncote. We were waiting for that to happen. Head and Eccles was still quite far from the HQ. But when I got there, I was like, Tom and Matt, both professionals in a sense that they weren't like teachers to me. They were like my mentors. They mentored me in life.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Of course, like I could tell them what I'm struggling on when I'm feeling overwhelmed. They know me the inside out, and that's what's good, because when you are in school or when you're in university, you're just a number. Just get on with it. You've got a course. You've paid grants for this course. It's not that. And I think like when we do talk about university, why would I want to pay something that I go out at the end and go, I don't even get a career in that? That would frustrate me as an individual. But with the Steven Gerrard Academy, where the first impressions I got, I went, this is great. This is just so like relaxed and normal. But then obviously it got to the end, which we will talk about it. It's like, oh my God, what our coursework in and this and that. But I found it fun at first. It was me joy. It was me passion.
And I think meeting new people especially within the industry, was great, wasn't it? Because I think we all had the same sort of idea. There was a couple of us who were aged like 19 to 20, and we were all at the same sort of stage in life, and we were kind of still figuring things out, thinking, is this even the industry for me, you know? And I think we were all so desperate to learn and grow that it actually was a recipe for success, wasn't it, in the end?
Yeah, 100%. Learning about live text commentaries and writing an article. Like you asked me before, and I did the sports industry from the age of, as I said, 17, 18, having my own podcast. But yourself teaching yourself, but it's too much to learn. But when I went there, you learn the ins and outs of everything, and it just makes you who you are. And what I loved about Access Sport and the Steven Gerrard Academy, we didn't have to do the same work. We didn't have to do the same equation, we could just be creative and go, I'm doing this podcast or I'm doing this written art. We could be our own people in what we succeeded, instead of having a brief where it's like, no, you've got to do this set piece, use these videos and put it together. We could use our own things, which I really loved.
And yeah, there was like, when we were learning softwares and that, there was time for us to figure out our creative niche in a way, wasn't there? And I think that's what, when we spoke before about the website thing, where you've got your own unique style, I'm sure that, along with your own personality anyway, kind of created the groundwork for what your business was going to be.
Yeah.
And obviously your early impressions were good, and throughout the course we went on trips, which we'll obviously touch on. But talk about kind of the memorable moments from that year. Just highlight a couple and then we'll dive more deeper into them.
So I'd say, yeah, there were so many. I think going into LFC TV, it was crazy because you look at these people. I've watched Peter and Becky do their thing for ages, and then I remember Neil Mellor was there, and we were like, and James went, God, you were like, oh my God, that's Neil. And it's like, wow, you get to meet these individuals that you've been watching.
Humanises them a little bit, doesn't it? Because you see them on the telly, they seem dead tall, and then you meet them, they're not as tall. So it's a great experience, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's what it was. You could go in a studio, you could see how it works. You can see that it isn't easy with all the setup and how they do it. But watching that live, like getting that opportunity from the Steven Gerrard Academy and Access Sport, like it's so great to see, because it gives you an eye-opener. And then me and you were able to go back and film something to say like, oh, this is what it's like as a media student. So that was great. Also as well, like I went on away days, like with the girls. I had a really strong connection with the girls team. We really got on. I was sort of helping them out because I think it was so male dominated, which we all expected that anyway, but they could come to me, and I really loved that. And then the first one in November, I remember getting a call from Tom, and he was like, do you want to go to Miami? I was like, oh my God. Like, I knew people were getting chosen for trips, but I never fancied America ever, because like I never had
you ever been?
Not properly, like when I was younger. I went to a few places in America, but I just thought, oh, you know, it's so far away. It's so out my comfort zone. When I got that, I was like, let's smash this. It's a new year. Let's do this. So Miami was the self-growth. I found myself completely. I knew what I wanted to do then, being around people and also the culture out there. And from that, I'm actually doing work in Miami next year. So how Access Sport and Steven Gerrard Academy, they've saw potential in me. They've said, we really want to see you out there and shine. And then to be able to do a year on is go back to Miami and do your own thing. Like that is, I always look back and go, oh my God, I could have done so many more things and like networked with so many people, because a lot of my reach is out in Miami now. And now I'm just out there to really, you know, smash it. But Miami was really good, getting to see Messi just walk past, just crazy. And also as well, I'd say just being able to be as a team with yous. Like we had little briefs and it was to do with applied nutrition, which are big now. Come on, they've been doing amazing applied nutrition. You know, they did the thing with Monterex and Yellier and all then. And you've done
They've got a shop, haven't they now?
Yeah, they've got a shop.
I saw, yeah.
And we got the opportunity to do work with them, and that's crazy. I was on the story, and they've got a big following. So to be able to get yourself out there and to be remembered by people and to go like, oh, you come from the academy and Access, it goes, oh wow, you've done so well for yourself. So there were so many moments of so much joy and happiness and enjoying the time there.
And I think it's about staying in the moment as well and actually enjoying your time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we can be very self-critical, and in the moment when we are working, we can kind of be like, right, I've got to do the best job I can do, and we don't kind of have time to kind of smell the roses and realize, look how far I've come. And Miami is a big one for that, because I remember you were really excited to go. And you interviewed quite a lot of people who were there. You obviously saw Messi play and Suarez, who obviously is big with Liverpool. Talk about the interviews, because we spoke just earlier in the podcast a little bit about the nerves kind of the night before. What was that like? Because you're not just interviewing brand new people who are experts in their field. I think one of them worked for the Miami Heat, which is a really famous basketball team out in America. But you're also in a completely different country, and you're not around all your comforts. So what was that like for you?
So I'd say Miami was a big eye-opener in terms of interviews. I did the most that I've done basically in that time I was there, and it made me want to fight for more. I was hungry for it. I remember it was a few days settling into Miami, getting jet lags, being in different hotels, which was surreal. Was at the time you think, oh, what's going on? And then a few things did change around where you have to prepare for that, and that's in your career, you learn that not everything goes to plan. So into Miami, we had 3 conference days free. So we had a couple of people every single day. And my opportunity with that, I wanted to do as an individual. I had to ask everyone if they wanted to do an interview. Some people said no, some people said I'm in a rush, but a lot of people said yes. So my aim was to say, get as much as we can out of this, because I am not going back home when I've been in Miami and had professionals, heads of recruitment, heads of Inter Miami's, all these successful people. If you interview them in time, they may go, oh, I remember that girl. She was good. What could we do to bring her in? So as I said, I always see everywhere as a job interview. So the nerves the night before, equipment, me Google Pixel, making sure everything's charged, the mics, everything like the equipment wise, which I look back on and I go, I should have invested in more time in that.
It's a stressful thing, equipment, isn't it?
Equipment's got gas.
Making sure it doesn't break or it's charged properly. It can be heavy, can't it?
Yeah, you want to make sure you triple check your bag. You triple check everything. And also as well, just getting as much out the interview as possible in such a short time. That's what I'd say. People would do all the presentation stuff and then you go upstairs, and then we had that set, which was a fantastic set of like Inter Miami Stadium in the background. I look at it now and go, oh my God, that is crazy. And you don't realise it. It's like pinch me moments. But from then, it was always about preparation. I had all the questions in my head, what I wanted to ask. I wanted to dive into their personal life and what made them get into the sports industry, but also as well, what advice they give to the Access sports students. That was important because they were over there on a trip. So I'd say I could have done, like I always look back on it, I could have done so much more, but you do learn from that, from being so young and learning. But I'd say one of my biggest achievements out there, my own little project, Thomas Rongan. And a lot of people was like, what's going on there? Because people were worried, like, what's going on? When I was in bed, like after all them interviews, I was like, I want to do an interview tomorrow. Who can I just get short notice? We went to like Inter Miami's academy and we did one with an under-19s player, and that actual player played for the first team the other day alongside Suarez, and I've done like a little short interview with them. It's crazy. But I watched on the way to Miami Next Goal Wins, and basically it's about
Taika Waititi's Next Goal Wins. Yeah.
Have you watched it?
I have seen it.
Yeah. So it's about Thomas Rongen, and Michael Fassbender is playing his part. So I just added him on LinkedIn. I knew that he was a commentator for Inter Miami, and I was like, I really want to get into interviewing and see what I could get from him. So I texted him. I said, I'd love to do like a little interview, talk about the movie, talk about your career. And I went on the beach. Do you know what? I couldn't even fit off my questions in because he's so good at what he does. He could just talk about everything that went on in his life, which was so good. But to be able to do that in Miami and being able to be proactive and think what could be the next step here, that's what I wanted to do. And from then, everywhere I go now, I make sure I get something out of it instead of going, oh, I'll go to this event. Oh, what for? I want to be able to film it or get something out of something.
Let's talk a little bit about the interviews, because the interviews, I obviously enjoy doing interviews like yourself. My style is I do love to ask calibrated questions that I know I'm going to get a good response from someone, so that I can then pick up on little things that they may say within their answer to then give another question. So what kind of was your process interviewing, especially Thomas Rongen, because it was kind of, as much as it was to do with sports, it had a little bit of a filmic aspect to it that you had to touch into. So talk to me a little bit about that, and what was your preparation like?
I think the preparation was to just like dive in deep sort of thing. I didn't have like what I always say, I wish I had an iPad to like just write a couple of notes down, and you learn from this. I think as well, the way that you interview really is inspiring, because when I was back in Miami, and what I really didn't really dwell on until my last couple of interviews, I'd go, oh, you know, we talk. It went off topic. So sometimes I was going on to off topic. So I'd be like, what do you love in your career? What was your biggest challenge? And that's structured, which is still good, and you still get the response. But if you pick up on something, what they've said, it's listened, and you can dive more deeper into that answer. So with that, I wanted to do it with Thomas Rongen. I was going, what made you come to the US? Why did you, and then you talk about certain teams, well, why did you stay at that team? So it was always about diving in deeper. But I was learning that throughout the interview process, because I thought like, I've wrote these questions down, but I could make more of an answer out of just, a 30-second answer. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, it is a learning process. And I think especially when you've got someone, I remember watching the interview with Thomas Rongen, and he's a gifted speaker. He's a commentator as well, isn't he? So he knows how to do that. So they're the best people to interview, really, because they will give you a good answer. And then you've got some types of people who are very to the point, and they get to the point very quickly. So either you've got to make sure that you're listening to them, or that you've got something next prepared. So it is a hard thing. And I watched all of the interviews you did. I edited some of them for access. They were fantastic, because you made sure that, I think a big thing as well is eye contact. When you're interviewing someone, that eye contact shows straight away that you're engaged, then you're listening. And that was something that I saw within the interview. So well done for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And it was a great experience for you, wasn't it? Going out to a different country, being able to interview them. Talk to me about the sports professionals when you went into Miami at the Global Coaching Conference, that you had to interview some of the people there. What was that like? So
there was quite a lot that I'm still very much in touch with. Johnny Hans, my favourite Irish.
He was funny, wasn't he?
He was great. And he still sends me opportunities all the time. Grace, get in touch with this person, get in touch with that, tell them about a business plan, get involved. And I've worked with so many people because of him. I said to him, how do I get over to America to do work over there and try and do as much as I can? And he really guided me. So to even have that connection with someone who you've just met and just did an interview, I think that's the joy of networking and connecting with people. That's what I always say.
It's a testament, isn't it, to how good you were? The fact that he's thinking, do you know what? I see something there, and I think I'm gonna come back to it if any jobs come available.
Yeah. So from then, like with Ricardo Blanco, he was head of events, and to see how well he did and to talk about his story. Bearing in mind, a lot of people did start from the bottom and they worked their way from the top. Kat and May from UCFB, and then you've got Kat from GIS. The very inspiring, especially with the being around them. They really boosted me to what I wanted to do. I was around them and being part of the staff there. I really enjoyed that. And what I see as well with the professionals that I was with, I made sure to get so much more out of them. They've just been at the conference and people are listening and the students are listening. But what can I actually get from them? Take a contact number, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, whatever they're on, and stay in touch, because you know in time you could bump into them, or you could have work lines up for them, or they could have work lines up for you. So I saw everyone that I was working for basically out there. And I think that's what's made me progress, because now I've been able to keep in touch with them, and to be able to, someone, instead of ignoring you and being like, oh God, I met her for like 5 minutes and that's it, to actually stay in touch and see that potential in me. Seeing potential in people, that's what makes you who you are. That's what gives me more belief that people do see potential, because I go, oh my God, I'm not where I want to be yet. But that's just being self-critical.
Goes a long way, doesn't it? When someone else recognises what you can do.
Yeah.
Because as much as we always strive not to have other people's validation affect us, it is a big thing.
Yeah.
When a client gets back to you and goes, you know what, Grace, I really love what you did there. You're made up with it. Or you see them getting loads of likes on a post that you did, or, you know, you see them getting success through you. It really makes you feel good, even if you're not the one you are benefiting from it, but, you know, directly benefiting from it. It is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it gives you that boost. You know what? I did it for him, so I can do it for him. Or I did it for her, so I can do it for her. You know what I mean? One thing I want to touch on with you is redirection. In life, we can have setbacks. We can, you know, people have accidents. They then can't. But last time we had on the podcast, Liam McCracken, who, you know, went through a massive injury where he got hit by a bus and, you know, his life gets flipped upside down. And that's a massive redirection. And one thing I noticed from him is he was so mentally strong in terms of that. In his head, he was like, right, well, I'll start coaching. Instead of going, right, I can't fight anymore. My first love, I can't fight. He then went, I'm going to start coaching. Still wanted to come back as a fighter, but the coaching was something that he started to do. And it's really powerful, that. So talk to me a little bit about with you. I know that's hard to kind of compare with things you may have been through, but talk to me about maybe the future. You know, how would you handle redirection where, you know, something could happen later down the line where you go, do you know what? I actually don't want to be in this industry anymore. I want to go here. How would you approach that mentally?
I think my mental health, it's hard. I have had rejection. I suffer quite like in anxious situations. I'm quite panicky like that. So for me, and I'll get quite overwhelmed. So I am quite like it's hard in situations like with my mental health, because I either take too much on and I burn myself out, or I'm going, oh, am I even good enough? So what it is for me, I have had rejections from jobs in the industry that really set you back. I've been on third interviews, fourth interviews, and then to get an email to say you've not got it, it's like, God, and you've got your heart set on it because you're making it to the last steps, and that's the thing. Like, that's what I'd say. The redirection is just something that you love and you want to stay passionate about. If it's too bad on your mental health, just don't take it on. That's what I've realised, because when you do take stuff on and it really damages you, there's no point in doing it. Because I've took a lot of things on where I've not had my heart into it. I've not felt myself into it. I haven't been happy about the outcome. So I wouldn't do it again. And that's how I am in life now. I won't put myself through anything, a job or anything that I don't want to do. With redirection, you look at the sports industry, it's crazy how much it's evolved over time. Back in my dad's day, it was completely different. It wasn't as commercialised. No one believes in it being commercialized. Now there's sponsors, now there's crazy things, and it takes that love away from football. And that, I think that's quite sad, because when you go to South America, when I've done work in Europe and gone to all these stadiums and saw the football there, you do still see quite it there, but I think over in time it will get more commercialized. It's going to get more expensive football to follow, and I think that's what the saddest part, because as you said, football is one of them things when you're a kid, so you play out in the streets and you get a £5 football, and if it bursts, you're like, oh God, can't afford one until, the next month. So football's always been from like where everyone can play it. But then now it's sort of so much harder, and the mental health side of things of getting rejection or being able to, I've saw a lot of like young players who don't make it. And that's, how can I even see that as their mental health? You've believed your whole life that you want to go into something, and then to even get that knockback from it, how do you even go from it? And a lot of people do suffer with the mental health. And I think in this industry and lockdown didn't help as well, because I've got to stay creative, I've got to stay proactive, and you deepen your thoughts. You've just got to believe in yourself, and you've got to be positive. And I get to the point where, oh, I've not done good enough. And then you go, and then I look at my portfolio and I go, I've worked with so many companies, like what am I on about? But because I feel I haven't made it yet to where I want to get to, and I've got to do all these little things that I'm not fussed on doing yet until what I want to get to where I want to be.
There was a quote I remember hearing from Charles Darwin, obviously long time ago, but he was talking about the theory of evolution, and he was saying, it's not the strongest animal that survives, it's the one that's easily adapted to change.
Yeah.
And if you can adapt to change anything in your life, whether it's as small as moving house or moving cities or changing jobs or a breakup or whatever it is, if you can adapt quickly to that, it's a recipe for success. Because mentally we are so fixated on a job, on a relationship, on whatever it may be, and our head's in it, and we can't actually imagine ourselves outside of it. But if you can see yourself as an individual, that no matter what, you're with you, and that's the main thing, I think that's a real secret, and I think we're all trying to master it. But if you can have that thought process and think to yourself, do you know what, I can be feeling really down right now, but this too shall pass. A week from now I'll be feeling great, and then a week from then I might not have a good day. Do you know what I mean? I think it's having that clarity, and we've spoken about it before on this journey, especially in the sports industry, where especially like players, one day one player can be doing amazing, he's getting all the headlines, the next week they're going, oh, he's crap, we don't want him in our team. So having that clarity is really good, especially for when you were talking about mental health and that, it's and overwhelming yourself. I know myself, when you take on too much things, your head gets a little bit muddled and you can't focus. It's nice to be able to be niche specific and focus on one thing. How have you experienced that in your life, where you've kind of had a lot of clients who are going, Grace, can you do this? Can you do this? And then you've gone, do you know what? No, I'm going to focus on this project. I'm going to make it my best. Have you experienced that?
So what's happening next year? I am going to take on a business which has got sponsors, like where a lot of people, which is so exciting, which I can't say just yet, but hopefully in time it will be something that I'm really passionate about, but it's to do with networking events. So people don't understand what networking events, you can take it how it is. People can take something out of it. When you go to networking events, like I've been to so many now, I didn't even know they existed at all. And then you could give your card to someone, they might not get in touch, they might get in touch. It just depends. But what it is for me, I think when I look into going into 2025, I do need to look after me and what I want to actually progress in. And I think when you do work for all these companies and they're enjoying what you do and you're smashing it, which is so good. Like I work with a lot of retail brands, and then you see like the sales come through from an Instagram post you've done or an email campaign, and you go, oh my God, I did that. And that's what the sales come through, and you get congratulated for it. But as I said, in life, you can't, if you want to do something for yourself, you've got to just go and do it without the money, without, like, that's the thing. I always thought as a business, you needed to have loads of money to start it. You don't. You just need a good network and people around you, and to know and have knowledge on what you want to go into. You can wing a lot of stuff, but then you want to look back and go, oh, it was less stressful because I knew knowledge on that certain thing. So how I've said is, I put a few bits apart. So if I can't take something on, I will just say no now. Because my work's always coming in now, which is surreal, because when you do leave and you're studying, you have nothing to like fall back on at that moment in time. But what I thought, I made an Instagram, I had a LinkedIn, I had so many connections, I had a lot of things where we were putting work on, and then people do get in touch with you, and I think that's crazy. What my Instagram was for my college portfolio, to post all my stuff on that. So if anyone said anything, it was to do that. But then I used it as a real platform so people can go, oh, Grace, this is what she does. And then you can see that she's collab with this person and collab with that person.
It's important, isn't it? Social growth and having social proof, because I've spoken to people before and they've mentioned, that a lot of their clients are warm leads, about, you've probably reached out to a lot of people. You mentioned networking events. I remember going to a networking event at Anfield. It's fantastic because there's so many people who, it's like, you think to yourself, don't you? You think, how am I going to get my perfect client to sit this far away from me and have a chat with them and try and pitch my services to them? And you think, it seems impossible to find them. And then there's networking events, there's LinkedIn, there's Instagram, there's all these places that make things a lot easier. And if instead of consuming content, if you're making content and creating it like yourself and posting it, it's really beneficial, isn't it?
Yeah.
And talk to me a little bit about that process of how you've grown creatively in terms of, your videography, your photography, your editing styles, your website building. Talk to me about specifically where you started to where you are now, and what was that evolution like for you?
Massively improved. I look back at my old things, like you see voices out of sync, you see camera quality. It's just all about learning, and I will always keep, like when I've done podcasts and little things here and there, I will always keep that at the bottom of my page. I won't ever delete it, because you can look and go, look how far I've come.
Shows growth, doesn't it?
It shows the growth. Instead of, you're deleting your past. Like, what's the point? Like, you want to see your growth and go, look how well she's done there. I think investing in it's a funny one with websites, because we didn't even do that at Access Sport or in the academy. No, we didn't. We sort of did the Google sites, but that wasn't anything to do with what I do. Basically, what happened was my friends, she knew that I did all like social media and sports, and I met her in Amsterdam, and she's a Scouser, which is so funny enough. And she got let down by someone she paid a lot of money for, and she went, can you do websites? I went, Jess, I don't have a clue. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'll try my best, but it might not go well. So she wanted it launched on the Friday, which we did, getting all the items on. And I was like, this is easy. It took so long to sort of watching the tutorials, making sure everything's perfect. So from that first website, I did that. And literally she was like, what do you want for it? I was like, oh no, you're my friend. Like, it's fine. Don't worry. I said, just get me a few clothes from Miami. Like, that's fine. Don't worry. So from there, she was like, oh, this person wants to get in touch about a website. She's got this brand. Oh, this person wants one. So she really, really helped me, and I'll always...
That was payment in itself, wasn't it?
We're always thankful for that, and I will always look after her in this industry with content days, and that's what she's doing now, and she's doing so, so well. But she will always recommend me for a website, and now I've done over like 30 websites now, and that's what's the joy of it, because she's saw that I've put my heart and soul in it, but now people have gone, oh, Grace, can you do this? Can you do that? So each website has been a project on its own, focused. I don't want to say, no, I can't do it. But when I can, I'm like that, oh, I can't do it. But then when I learn myself, you can put anything you can do if you put your mind to it. That's what I say. Like, you've got to always look after that. So from that, I love websites, like being able to do a project, making something grow and stand out and being its own from a logo. I've had websites where they go, can you make me logo from the very scratch? So like, no, not gave me any help.
Any idea? Did they give you like a description of the...
He wanted it blue. So
well, that narrows it down, doesn't it?
Well, that's it. So it's a funny story. So I did this website. He said, I just want it blue. You can do it the way you want. I was like, what do I even go off here?
What type of company was it?
It was a gas services,
right, okay.
A gas services company. Something's completely different, never done it in my life. So when I saw this website, he said, I absolutely love it, but I hate that shade of blue. So I got everything
so
right.
So he didn't even give you the right tone of blue? Wow, God.
So he didn't give me the right tone of blue, but it was like, wow, like I've done all this website. I've created it from scratch. I've done everything. But the only thing the client asked for, he just didn't like that blue, which was a quick, easy change anyway. Yeah. But it is like, I love the feedback. Like when they say, Grace, can you do that? Like, we can do this. And it just makes you more... You more get into it, and like
confidence booster, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And then one company that I do work for, and like I work with ex-players and current players, which is so crazy because you see them on the pitch on the weekends. Like we're having Diego Jota and Darwin Núñez, and that's why I didn't want to be a journalist, because they know that I've said something in an article or something not right. They won't remember. They might not even know who you are, but imagine if they did. And then it's just so awkward in that sense that they know that I'm sort of a bad one.
Especially when Liverpool's in your blood.
Liverpool's in your blood forever,
and it's like you wouldn't want to talk bad about your players.
No,
I mean,
ever.
You love them. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So all that, cap court, like everyone says, that's your starter pack. You said that for ages. You go, Grace, you're using Canva, like CapCut and Canva and stuff, but then you start investing in other programs and you're like, this is going well here. I've also got a tool as well. I do social management for so many companies, and I'd have to post every single post. I'd do about 50 a day, and it'd be one by one. There's an app, I can't even remember what it's called, but at 6 o'clock, schedules everything. Happy days. You can get on with your
Is it a website
projects.
or an app?
It's an app. It's called like 10, something like that. But from then, it was always about investing in my time, because now I've been able to invest in my time in my own projects to be like, this is what I want to do now, instead of living where I've got to post this, I've got to post that. It's all about finding tools just to help you out. Why not? No one helps you out. You've got to, when you're a freelancer, you know yourself. You're doing it all yourself. So if an app's going to help you out with something little, happy days.
Exactly. And I think these softwares now, I actually just spoke to you before about the podcasting software where you can actually create all the podcast clips with literally a click of a button. It sounds like I'm doing an advert here, but it's true. You can literally click and it just creates all these podcast clips, and then you can throw in, your overlays of your logo and everything. But as you say, if you can actually streamline your time, when you're a business owner, it's about that growth and being able to scale. And you're not going to be able to scale if you're working 24-hour days on projects, are you? So it is really important. And I think one thing I'd like to touch on before we finish is a little bit about, so obviously you've started your media business, you're going full in on the media business in this coming year. Talk to me a little bit about your goals and your ambitions regarding that.
So when I first opened Grace Merritt Media, everyone's like, is that the official name? I don't even know. Like, it's just my name. It's got media. People can find it easy. My goals for, I'd say, like, I'm aiming for next year, because I want to work in fast progress, like, environment. I want to get more into sports. As I said, I did touch on that. It's so lovely. And the escapism is great when you're working with brands and like I've done dog grooming brands and jewelry brands, and it's so good to get that escapism. But what's my passion and what's my love and what could I do for 24/7 is sport and football. And like, that's what I'd say. Like, I love sports in general, the basketball. we had that passion. I never really was into it. Now I'm really into it. I'd love to cover, the basketball out there. So for me, it's doing more opportunities, but also as well, doing my own thing. I want to start talking more in front of a camera because you have all these little breaks. I don't do it every single day. I don't do it every week. So you start getting nervous again and you go, do you know, if I did this every week, you fly through it. So
it's like riding a bike, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like riding a bike. You start forgetting like the little things that you want to say. But Grace Merritt Media, I just wanted to go to all scales, work with so many big brands, freelance at all different places, travel abroad more, which I've been able to do when I went and did work for AC Milan and Dortmund. So that was incredible. So, but I'm still not. I really want to just travel. I'd love to go to South America and do the football there. So the goals, I'd say next year and the ambitions is just working with so many companies as I can and finding like my niche in the industry and trying to find something different. I think there's a load of podcasts now. There's a lot of gaming tools. There's a lot of what people do. And I just want to find something quite different that is unique to the industry. But I'm all about female empowerment. So with my networking events, I'm going to get, that's like the next stage. I want to get all like females there and have it like as a big progress thing because I do it with the LFC Foundation. But I feel like there's so many of us that could get with each other in the industry and work together as well. So that's my aims for next year.
Well, listen, I'll be watching that the whole way through. But
thank you.
Before we finish, talk to me a little bit about your reflections from start to finish. Grace, when she started the academy, with access to Grace right now, and maybe to Grace in 5-10 years' time. What is your reflections and kind of where would you want to be personally?
I think reflecting, I'd say like, first of all, like a big thank you for the Stephen Gerrard Academy and access. They've made me find myself. They've made me feel confident. They gave me opportunities that, as a 20-year-old, you can only dream about. So I am so lucky and grateful to have on that. I think the reflection is being mature and finding what I actually want to go into. I think when I did first start the academy, I wasn't sure. I didn't know if it was going to last. I didn't know if it was something that I actually wanted to get into because, as you said, it is very male dominated. So you've got to look at it as well. Well, I get the opportunities, but then as we've seen from the progress of like the 2 years, let's say, and then also the women with winning the Euros. So we're getting more of an opportunity now, which is just amazing. But I'd say the reflection is just never doubt yourself. Like I always did, never thought it was good enough. Was surrounded by men who I thought they're on top of me and they could be well better than me in this industry than compared to me because I'm a female. But you've just got to sort of, people say that's what you're going to strive in because you've got the knowledge, you're passionate, you're bubbly, but also as well you know your stuff. You're not doing this for a laugh, and I wouldn't do that. Like I'm 21 now, and I just want to look in time and go, I did that, and look back and go, I never regretted anything, and I took everything that was in my stride, basically.
Well, that's a lovely way to end, and it's a lovely little thing, I think, to think on for the future. We don't know what the future holds.
No.
And I think that's nice in a way. We don't know where we're going to end up. And I think the sooner we come to terms with that and the sooner we're comfortable with that, the better we'll be in than now. But listen, Grace, it's been absolute. We could talk for hours.
We could, can't we?
We've had amazing time talking to you. So obviously we'll be having another podcast as soon as we have a great guest to come on. But for now, thank you, Grace. And I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye.